Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Well, yes, my face is painted. We had a Purim carnival at the synagogue, and one of the booths was a face painting, and just got back. So, yeah, it's a Sunday afternoon busted. That's when I typically film these or record these. So there it is. And we had a great Purim celebration. I tell you, kudos to everybody that came out. We did a Megillah reading Thursday afternoon, which was right between Purim and Shushan Purim, which is the Purim, the latter day, the Purim for if you're in a walled city. And then we did a little bit instead of a Tat Shabbat, we did a Tat Purim. We read the Megillah for the kids, had them run the groggers. Something that 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-old kids love to do is make noise, so it's their holiday. And yes, and then the adults did too. It was great. And then today, of course, we had our Purim carnival. It was wonderful, very well attended. People had fun, and it was great. So, just a little bit of a change. This week's Torah portion. Actually, it's Torah portions because it's a double portion. It's Vyekel and Pekudei. Now, there are times during the year when we double up on the Torah portions. We do two together. And typically the sages went back. It's always a specific pair, right? It's not just, well, let's just, this year let's just do these two. No, there are specific portions that typically get run together, and typically because it's a common theme. So these two particular portions are the last two portions of the book of Exodus, and we'll talk about that at the end of the recording. And now, why do we do that? Why do we double up? Well, most years have 12 months. And Judaism uses the Hebrew calendar as a lunar calendar of either 29 or 30 days, depending on the particular month. And that means that you have 12 months of 29 or 30 days. You typically have about, I don't know, I can't add right now. What's 30 times 12 is about 360. Plus we have some portions. We have some months that are a little bit lighter, so it's about 354 days. So as the years go on, you end up being out of sync with the solar calendar. So what happens is that if you were to continue to do this, then Passover, which is a springtime holiday, would end up being in the winter, right? So about 7 times in 19 years, they add an extra month. So in the Hebrew calendar, the leap year is an actual extra month. We have 13 months. 13 in Hebrew is a very good number. It's the amount of attributes of HaShem. It's the age at which a boy or girl these days gets b'nai mitzvot. So at that point, we add another holiday, another month. That month is the second Adar. In those years, and it's going to be next year, there'll be 2 Adars. Adar 1, Adar 2. That's the end of the Hebrew year. And then the beginning is Nisan, which is in the spring. Now people are thinking, well, how is that the end of the year? I thought Rosh Hashanah in September, October is Rosh Hashanah. It's the new year. It's the new spiritual year. This is spring. This is when the Israelites left Egypt. Okay, it's the secular new year when kings ascend the throne, when contracts become ratified. So that's how they do that. Now, here's the issue. Purim, the holiday of Purim, is in Adar. And during the leap years, is it in the first Adar or the second? Well, it's in the second Adar because by halacha, which is Jewish law, Purim is always 30 days before Passover. Passover is in the 15th of Nisan. So then that way you have your 30-day period, your time period, your leeway, your distance. So when it's a leap year, we do one portion a week. Now, when it's not a leap year, you have to double up in order to get the whole Torah read. Plus this year, Passover, which is 4 weeks away, folks, it's coming up pretty quick. Passover starts on Saturday. Now, during Passover, we have a special Torah reading that's apart from the usual flow of the Torah. This year, since Passover is an 8-day festival, and it starts on Shabbat, the last day of Passover is on Shabbat, which is also a special Torah portion, which means that there's now an extra Torah portion that we don't do. Hence, we have to double up to make sure that we finish the Torah reading after the high holidays, Simchat Torah, and and that way we go back to the beginning. So the two portions that we're reading is the building of the tabernacle and the construction of some of the artifacts like the menorah, the ark. It's also the weaving of what the Kohen Gadol, the head priest, wears, and some of the other priests. Now, some of you have been following these vlogs or read the Torah. You're thinking, well, wait a minute. Didn't we just do that a couple of portions ago? Didn't God tell Moshe, do this way, make the planks how many cubits long, wide, deep, put the little rings and the staves to hold it down, do it. Yes, he did. This particular two portions is devoted to the follow-through, where Bezalel from the tribe of Judah and Aholiab from the tribe of Dan, the biggest tribe and one of the smaller tribes respectively, are the master craftsmen. Think of them as the contractors, actually. And that's what it says. They had this innate ability. You meet some people that just have this natural ability. They look at a piece of wood, and 2 days later, you've got this beautiful, intricate carving. They just see it, and that's the way their minds function. Because remember, the Israelites were stuck in Egypt. All they were doing was this back-breaking grunt work, carrying and making the bricks, mixing them together, then carrying them and schlepping it back, and that's all they did. There was no craftsmanship. So the fact that you had two people that were imbued with this divine inspiration, as the Torah calls it, is very significant. The fact that they just kind of knew how to do it. But it also says they were in charge of the detail, which basically made them contractors. They're the ones that could see how things were supposed to be made and direct others in the making of it. Now, it's interesting, too, because throughout the Torah, a lot of the description is very sparse. The Torah only records what it needs to record. We talk about Abraham, our patriarch, okay? And their story is about how when he was a kid, his father left him in charge of his shop, which sold idols and, that type of thing. Yet, if we look at the Torah, in the portion of Lech Lecha, the third portion of in Genesis of the Torah, it said God called to Abraham. Now Abraham was like 70 years old, so it jumps. He's there. He is. He's 70 years old. He's already had what for most of us would already be a lifetime, and yet it just picks up when he's 70 years old. So it doesn't talk about when he was a kid, even though obviously he had to be apart. He had to have this realization apart from his fellows that there was this one God, because everybody else were pagans. They all believed in idols. They worshipped the heavenly bodies because they worshipped the sun because the sun gave heat. They couldn't conceive that there was this one immortal, all-knowing HaShem, God, that controlled the universe. Yet he did. See? So it picks it up right there. Yet here, they go through all the work of discussing what goes into the making. Then it almost repeats it by saying the making. So think about this. We just had the portion of the golden calf. That was last week, all right? So the purpose, and consider that maybe one of the reasons why it does that, and I say maybe because we don't know for sure, and different sages have different opinions, but when you look at it, you got to think that it's going through the whole rigmarole, if you will, the whole description, intricate description of the construction to show you how important it is. We have the golden calf. They made a golden calf. They needed something to see. Okay, this is what we're seeing, the sanctuary. This is the Shachan, the Shochinah, which means dwelling. We say the Shochinah, where Hashem dwells in all of us. And yes, in Judaism, the Spirit of Hashem is within all of us. That's just the way it is. So this is where God's going to not necessarily dwell on earth, because God's everywhere, right? But his presence specifically where we're going to connect with him. When they make the breastplate, the ephod, where it's got all the shochan stones with the names of the tribes engraved on it, and he put the parchment of God, the name of Hashem inside, and when the high priests want to find out what's going, when they want to talk to God, they kind of go, they ask God the question, and the stones light up, and they have to figure out which letter it is to put together the words. So it shows you that we've got the physical presence for the spirituality. Many times in Judaism, we focus a lot on the halacha, the laws, Shabbat, no, don't drive, don't turn on the lights, don't watch TV, rip up your toilet paper so you're not ripping, and people just don't understand why we do it. There's a disconnect between actually doing those things to observe Shabbat and and what it means spiritually. Okay, the whole object of the spirituality is that now we've got this Aron HaKodesh, this tabernacle where we can go and we can a specific place where we can commune with God, say, where the sacrifices are going to be held, where the incense is going to be burned, where the menorah is going to be lit, where all these things are going to be as a symbol of God's presence. And that's the whole point. So we've got the laws, but now it's focusing on this because this is a presence. So as Jews, as people, all right, we express the presence of HaShem through our physical acts. Why do we say prayers before we eat? To make the secular holy. Right? We go to the bathroom, we say a prayer, right? Because we thank HaShem that our bodies work. And that's the whole point. By doing that, we're closer to God. So we don't just have this realization of the spirituality of HaShem, but now we've got a physical place where we say, okay, great. Now we don't worship it. Let's be very clear on that. There's no worshiping of the place, but there's worshiping in the place, not of the place, in the place. So let that be a lesson. And again, thanks for listening. Happy Purim, a little bit late. And we will see you next week. Shabbat Shalom.